Louisiana side. So this storm for about the next 40 minutes is going to be moving northeast, roughly at about 40 miles an hour. As it does, it's spinning, it's rotating. It's a rotating, I don't call it supercell, but the cell itself is rotating as it moves northeastward. So Tenaha would be the biggest town within the path of the storm, and so that's why we were saying to get to your shelter as soon as possible. There were several smaller towns out in advance of that, so that's east of Timpson and going to be, I believe, south of Highway, I'm not sure, 59. So south of that highway, as that storm moves up to the northeast, you'll see lightning strikes that are kind of older, but this cell is circulating and moving in that direction. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'll put a little track on this storm for us. So I want to get down to the street level. So Meldrum was the town I was thinking of, and then Tenaha. And as that moves northeastward, that's going to be in that path toward, let's see, Center Street in Tenaha. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of move this thing over and see if we can. It looks like maybe the high school south of here, right in here, right there. There's the track. That circulation is staying south of Highway 59 and moving northeastward. And this is the main area, the main threat at this time. Looks like we've got a lot of woodlands over there, maybe a couple of farms. So if you're anywhere between Meldrum and Tenaha, you want to be in your safe place right now. And again, it looks like the high school's going to be south of Tenaha, down in this area here, or at least a track with a football field. And then that's going to be 96 going into town. So that's the storm with the tornado warning on it, circulation, and at least Michael Searcy, emergency manager down in that area, reporting a well-defined wall cloud in that vicinity there. Chandler, you were zooming the camera in over on that area?
Yeah, unfortunately, if we could take the Nacogdoches camera full screen, please. We've got some stuff on top of the administrative building that we're using, but you can actually see the darkening right where the building is, of course, and the structure blocking it. But I think that darker area on the right side of your screen, that's exactly where this area of heavier rain and the potential the wall cloud that we're keeping an eye out for is going to be located.
Yeah, so right behind probably the tallest structure there on the right-hand side of your screen, that matches up with this right here. All right, so that's what we're looking at there. There's Highway 59, there's Meldrum. So our camera is looking probably from the southwest back up into the storm here, and that's that dark spot that you can see near Nacogdoches. So the storm itself is moving to the northeast, so it may, we'll look at that, starting to really kind of tighten up a little bit more. So yeah. All right, so Tenaha, please be in your safe place. North of Tenaha, north side of town especially. The inflow winds are here. The outflow winds are coming back. We're getting that rear flank downdraft trying to form just a little bit better. It's not a well-defined tornadic vortex signature. Did we turn on the Titan indicator and see what that
Yeah, the storm tracks are on. We're not getting anything with our Titan indicator.
Okay, well, I mean, maybe at this point it's just not picking up anything that's worthy of it. It's not hitting those parameters. We have parameters set on that so that when it hits certain wind values or certain amounts of size hail or rainfall rates, it starts to indicate and give us an indication of what's going on inside that storm. So right now, none of those are popping up, but that is a tornado warned storm till 12:15. That's moving toward Logan at 12:03, Longstreet at 12:13. So the 12:03 portion of the storm, Logan's out in here, Longstreet out here at 12:13. So it's covering a lot of ground here in a short period of time. Moves up toward Preston and Stonewall by 12:36. So this one looks like it's picked up a little bit of forward momentum. Instead of moving 35 to 40, if it's on this storm path here on that track, it's starting to cook, starting to move along a little bit faster. So that warning goes till 12:15. Radar indicated, but we do have a wall cloud spotted with this. So we'll see. We'll wait for spotters in the field to indicate whether or not they're seeing anything. But for the time being, if you're in Tenaha or in Gary City, we need you in your safe place right now. So that circulation is right on the northwest side of Tenaha right now. So there's the loop. There's Center Street, there's 59, so that's going to cross right over 59, and now we've got at least a medium circulation being picked up, a little medium meso circulation with that storm. So that's just popped up, so it has certainly hit that area. Now tornado impact is low at about 2. The wind impact's up around 7. and there's some heavy rain with that, with the flooding impact around 4. It's moving to the northeast at 37 miles an hour. So probability of severe hail, we're not getting any severe hail with that storm, but it is moving northeastward toward Logan. And again, a small tornado threat now with that storm, at least being indicated with our Titan indicator, which is looking inside that storm. It's dissecting, it's using algorithms to parse out what we're looking at in terms of the threats. And so with that, it gives us at least a low to medium threat tornado level right now, a higher wind threat that is medium to about medium high. So there's likely a good bit of wind being produced by that storm right now, northwest of Tenaha, now moving to the north side of town, here's Paxton. So that's just staying up. Meldrum, you are fine, even though Meldrum may still be in the polygon. The storm has passed and has gone past Meldrum, so you're okay. You can come out of your shelter. But Tenaha, we need you in your shelter right now. Velocities showing up here about 43 miles an hour. That gate-to-gate shear is a little bit lower than that. So, and that's looking at one portion of the storm. That's not looking at all of the levels of the storm. So there could be some stronger winds at the surface, but we're looking at about a ½ degree tilt in that. So roughly from the radar site in Shreveport, it's probably going to be 4,000 or 5,000 feet into the atmosphere. So again, it could be stronger, lower, and it could be even weaker, a little bit lower than you go. But that's what we see, and with that spinning and the way we have that set, we have that on that criteria that when it hits a certain level of wind speed, then it pops on, and so that's where that is popped on right now. So we'll see if that strengthens. If that were to strengthen to a pre-TVS signature, we'd have a little green tornado signature here, then we'd be getting closer and closer to a tornado. So Tenaha right there on the northwest side of town, and it just went away. So red and green next to each other, red going away from the radar, green going toward the radar. So there is a circulation there. It looks a couple of miles wide. For me, I like it less than 2 miles wide if we're going to be really concerned about something being produced at the surface, but this looks like this might be maybe 4 or 5 miles wide at this time. So it's a wide circulation, but it has picked up some intensity as it moves. This is northern parts of Shelby County, this is southern Panola County. So that's going to move into Panola County near Gary City at this time. So just moving past Tenaha. Again, no reports of any tornado, no damage reported in that area. And it moves to the northeast toward Logan. Logan is now in that polygon, and the warning goes for the next ½ hour. So we get a ½ hour to track this storm as it crosses Panola County and then continues to move to the north, moving out of Shelby County. So here's the new track that Chandler just put on this. So it's going to be Logan at about 12:07. So that's in about 22 minutes. And then Longstreet 12:16, so that's about a ½ hour, and then Preston closer to 12:30. So this thing's moving to the northeast at 37 miles an hour. That's why you're seeing it as you are. And we started back here, southwest of Tenaha. That was at about 11:30. So in the last 15 minutes, it has now moved all the way up right onto the border of Panola and Shelby County, and will continue moving north and eastward. So anything else that you're seeing, Chandler? I mean, from this point, it just looks like we're kind of on a holding pattern in terms of what we're getting out of this storm.
Yeah, I'm going to do a bit of a reset. I accidentally hit the escape button, so we'll just get to reset our velocity product really quickly across the region. And this is a wide view of what we've got going on right now. Still some clusters of showers and thunderstorms. We'll keep a close eye out to our south and southwest at this particular cell that's south of Lufkin and now making its way into southwestern Angelina County, one that we were keeping a close eye out for earlier. Certainly putting out some lightning as well as what appears to be some tiny hail within the heaviest of rain. So that's something that we'll at least monitor, but we'll turn our attention back to the tornado portion or tornado warn portion of this cluster of thunderstorms that we've got located now throughout parts of Panola and Shelby counties until 12:15. The emergency manager, Michael Searcy, who's located in Deep East Texas. Rotation just crossed Highway 59. No funnel, though the wall cloud looks to be a little more organized. So we'll keep a close eye out on that as it continues to move off to the northeast at about 30 to 35 miles per hour. Not as impressive on our storm relative velocity product, Brett, but, like we've seen over the last few hours with these storms, as we get a new portion of the warning and we see it trimmed down some still, something that we need to respect because it could certainly be strengthening again.
Yeah, and Tenahall not taken out of that. So I'm trying to get, we have a special weather statement on a cell that's to the south of, it's that one cell that we were watching way down in Livingston County that's moving toward San Augustine County, or I should say Angelina County. All right, so take a look here at the Nacogdoches camera, because I believe from the perspective, and we've got it pointed out to the northeast, that should be the cell that we're looking at from the southwest to the northeast of it. So we're looking kind of in from behind it, and it does look like we're scraping the ground there. It looks like anyway at that point, it looks like we've got that lowering. That would be, those clouds are right here. So Nacogdoches is down here. We have the camera pointed out into this vicinity here. So you can see, so right in there is that the way that clouds are so close to the ground makes a lot of sense. I don't see a wall cloud here from my perspective, but again, we're looking several miles away from a camera, and it could be easily, back into the cloud somewhat. We're seeing the back edge of it that's toward Tenahall. So, but that just kind of gives you an idea when you look at that camera, just how low to the ground the clouds are. So they're just basically scrubbing the surface as they go by. I mean, those are pretty ominous looking skies at this time. And all of that moisture, of course, there's a ton of moisture at the surface. There's cooler air aloft. That condensation right at the base of those clouds really sometimes can give us that scary appearance. But that's the cell. It's moved away from Tenahall. Tenahall is out of the tornado warned area. So if you live in Tenahall and you're watching us, you can come out of your safe place. Gary City, Highway 59 up to the northwest of Paxton. So it's very close to Paxton. You're probably going to want to be in your shelter and staying there for the next several minutes. We will see once this cell moves farther into Panola County, Shelby County will likely be trimmed out of the tornado warning. But right now that circulation is just simply too wide. And it's almost where the storm itself, you can see these little purple pixels. So the storm itself is kind of coming between the Shreveport radar site and likely out of the Houston or Lake Charles radar site. And so it's getting, the radar beam's getting bent down to the surface. And so it's having a little of a harder time picking up on what it looks like right now in terms of velocity. So that's why it doesn't look real well structured at this time, but it may be, and we just said, we heard from the emergency manager that there was a well-defined wall cloud with it. So even though it doesn't look like it from that vantage point, easily could be a decent-looking wall cloud at this time. So yeah, I'm thinking about going over there and maybe dissecting, looking at the storm from our other monitor here. Let's see. All right, so what we might be looking at here, it looks like we've got the clearing back here to the northwest. So we may have this is tough to do. I'm going to do a little analysis as we go along. So we've got certainly the lower clouds off here to the front side. There's a lot of swirling going on. So maybe here is what they're seeing down in Nacogdoches County. I need a wider perspective of this to know for sure that we're not getting into the vault. This might be the back half anvil of the storm where the inflow is coming into the storm. It looks like it certainly has lowered, but again, sometimes you're fighting against the horizon as you look off to the east, and of course the curvature of the earth, and then the storm looks like it's kind of touching the earth, and it could be a lot higher off here. Again, we're looking several miles up to the north, but yeah, there's a lot of pouchiness going on in the clouds here, so there's definitely some colder air sinking. Hopefully those are birds and not something flying in the air. Can you see? Did you see that?
I missed it. I was looking down.
I think there were birds. I mean, it better be birds, or we've got debris coming up into that cloud there. But yeah, there's probably birds being pulled into the circulation of the storm as it moves away. In fact, I probably need now to pan to the left a little bit off that screen here to see what we're looking at. So we'll get to that in just a second. But this is probably going to be the area that has the most concern to that storm with it right now. Yeah, it's moving from this side of the screen to that side of the screen. Yeah, okay. I got to think right in here, Chandler, is where we're going to be most concerned about.
Yeah, most definitely. And if we can pull up that double box that we had with Max 1, we can kind of pair it with reflectivity to give a better sense here. And I think we've got some inflow with the rotation into this portion of the storm here. if you can see Brett there, I think that's where we're keeping an eye out for into just to the southwest of Logan there. I think that's where we're going to see some inflow and at least attempting to rotate.
That's what it looks like right now, even though our Titan indicator says it's a weaker rotation, but it could be in the mode of strengthening. So it could be just getting stronger as we go. Those clouds, certainly, we'll call those scary-looking clouds for the time being, as they look pretty ominous as they along the surface and just kind of very dark, very gray, and they're touching the surface. But I don't see anything that's like a well-defined wall cloud, at least from our vantage point. But there are certainly some indications there's a ton of rising air within that storm. It's a very moist storm, so there's likely a lot of rain wrapped up also into this storm. So kind of keeping an eye on this circulation right here east of Gary City. That's going to be northwest of Paxton. That has moved out and away from Tenaha. So we'll go to velocity here in just a second. So we may have inflow. So it's right in here that we continue to watch. There's Logan. So Logan, if you're watching us from Logan, please be in your safe place right now. As that crosses over, I believe that's going to be the Panola County line. This is going to be Longstreet in Louisiana into DeSoto Parish. So as that moves into DeSoto Parish, then that threat will pass. Gary City, the threat has passed. Tenaha, the threat has passed for the time being. And Logansport is just outside of this cell as it continues to kind of churn. And boy, that view, though, from the Nacogdoches camera really shows just the turbulence in the atmosphere here as we get closer to noon. So there's a lot of turbulence in this part of the storm. So far, just radar indicated, meaning that it could be a storm that produces a tornado, but so far, no reports of any funnels. We did reports of some wall clouds trying to organize and lower, but that's all we've had at this point. No damage is reported with this cell. We were looking at that camera earlier, and I believe it looked like birds were just being kind of pulled up and just kind of riding the updrafts or the thermals into that storm as it was going, just kind of riding the updrafts or the thermals into that storm as it was going around. That was fascinating to see, because that's sort of, when you first see something like that, you're like, what is going on there? But that looks like that's what we were seeing as that storm moves up to the northeast. So this only has a few more minutes to go, even though the warning goes until 12:15, but the portion of the storm that is impacting parts of Panola County has about probably 15 more minutes to go on that. And then I believe we should see Shelby County removed from the warning at this time, because it looks like they have that cell has moved out. The threat, anyway, has moved out of Shelby County.
Yeah, I think once we get a little closer to the 12 o'clock hour, we'll start to see Shelby County removed out of that particular portion of the warning, and that'll just include southeastern Panola County for this signature that we've continued to watch. So our storm track Titan indicator has since disappeared, which would indicate to us that at least as Brett's talked about, the parameterization that we use to dissect these storms within the core of them isn't strong enough or isn't indicative of any type of significant rotation or circulation that we'll need to keep an eye out for. But certainly, since we still have a tornado warning, you folks in Logan, or if you have any loved ones in Logan, you'll need to definitely continue to stay weather aware and continue to make sure that you're in your safe spot. Remember, away from any type of window, as far into the most interior portion of your house that you can be, as lowest to the ground as you can be. If you're watching us on cable or on your TV, anything like that, you can crank the volume up and listen to us from your safe spot, or download our app. You'll be able to continue to get this exact same coverage from your phone so that you can be somewhere safe while also continuing to get the coverage. I haven't seen anything in the National Weather Service chat, Brett, but I imagine that for now they're just continuing to monitor, since we've got storm spotters that at least say there's some type of wall cloud with this circulation.
Yeah, I mean, that's evident from our Nacogdoches camera, and I'm sure they're seeing a lot of low gray clouds very close to the surface, and a well-defined wall cloud being reported by one of the emergency managers in that area. So, yes, certainly that is the possibility, but so far so good on terms of anything being produced by this cell. So bright red, a little brighter green area. I wonder if we could drop off the polygon maybe. Let's do sort of an inspection on that with our gate-to-gate shear, and we'll look at that. We'll go all the way in here. That's going to be east of Gary City. Boy, when you get in on it, it just doesn't look as well organized as it does from wider out. So, Yeah, 13, that's very weak. 12, that's pretty weak. I thought maybe from that wider vantage point, it looked like that thing was going to be a little bit stronger, but boy, it just doesn't have that appearance. And even the reflectivity right now looks like it's lost some of that, what we saw earlier. I thought we saw more of a curling here on the southwestern side. Now we're just seeing some downdraft winds being perhaps produced over here toward Logan. So this storm may be in a weakening phase, and I say that word, it's reorganizing. But at this point, it's weakening, and then it can strengthen again. So, yeah, that just doesn't look like that's going to amount to much at this time. So, Paxton, you are southwest of that storm, even though you are in the polygon. Anyone along Highway 84, you're okay. That storm has passed. And at Gary City, also the threat has passed. And I think for this time being, Logan would be the next best city that would have this circulation pass overhead, and you're going to see some dark, ominous clouds. The clouds will be rapidly rising into rapidly rising into the storm. You'll also see probably some heavy rain coming down. You may see a real quick darkening of the sky off to your southwest. You may see the clouds kind of appear to be turning or rotating, especially around as it goes overhead. So that would be a real possibility, just because we're looking at a storm that has been showing signs of rotating the whole way as it has moved from the southwest back to the northeast. So right now, again, that tornado warning goes till 12:15, so that's for about the next, say, 19 minutes, because we're approaching noon at this time. Chandler's just circled this area here, and that's the one we continue to watch. But so far, we've had, I believe, 4 or 5 warnings, but we've had no reports of any damage and no reports of any tornadoes touching down at this time. So these have merely been radar indicated, but looking at the environment that they're moving through, worthy of being warned on, just because you don't know at what point they are going to quickly produce a tornado. So you can see the Titan indicators that we have had at times shown these little circulations as they've moved. There's a little bit of hail moving into southwestern parts of Angelina County, perhaps some small hail moving into northwestern portions of Shelby County, and then that tornado warned polygon that is now it's just Panola County. So now we've dropped Shelby County, so Panola County is the only county remaining in that and DeSoto Parish until 12:15. So that will continue moving up to the northeast. The tornado watch itself is essentially Rusk County, Cherokee County, back to Houston County, though the cells that we were watching for Houston County at that point do not look as ominous as they did. Angelina County right now looks like to be about the worst. So Panola County there at 12:15. And DeSoto Parish also until 12:15. All right, we're coming up on noon here on CBS 19. You would typically see the CBS 19 noon show, but today, because of tornado coverage, we are going to continue this coverage through the noon hour until this tornado warning is allowed to expire, and that will be at 12:15. So meteorologist Chandler Jordan and myself have been tracking these tornado warnings since about 10:30 this morning, when the first one was issued down in Nacogdoches County and Rusk County. And now we've been watching several cells moving over, not essentially the same area, but through the same environment. And as they have moved through the same environment, they've all been taking on this identity of, at times, rotating. And so because they're rotating and they're rotating at certain strengths, the National Weather Service has been issuing tornado warnings on these storms. So you typically would be watching the noon show right now, but today we are going to continue our tornado coverage here on CBS 19 until all of the warnings are allowed to expire. We may still get an additional warning back to the southwest, not 100% confident of that yet. There were a couple of cells down around Angelina County that showed signs earlier of rotating and perhaps moving into an environment where they were stronger. That cell, fortunately for us, weakened. And as we have looked at it before, it's now producing a little bit of hail, but just doesn't have the same characteristics that a tornado-producing cell would have. Now, not to say that it can't take on those characteristics again as it moves back into this environment where there are some stronger winds aloft, where the environment's just a little bit more conducive of a rotating cell. So that's the possibility. But right now, this is the only tornado warning we have going on, and the only county in East Texas is going to be Panola County, and that is until 12:15, and that is just a radar indicated storm at this time. So it does look like there's a fairly decent, bright and red and green area in that, but again, for the National Weather Service, Chandler, not saying anything that any other spotters are reporting anything else.
Yeah, we haven't really had anything too active in the chat so far. This continuing to move off to the northeast at 35 miles per hour. This will put the center of circulation in Logan around 12:10 this afternoon. So that's another 8 minutes away. So if you know any folks that live in Logan, remember to make sure they're in their safe spot. Let them know what's headed their way. And if you folks are living out there, anyone who is there at this moment, again, far interior portion of your home, away from windows, as low as you possibly can be. And, don't forget, because of the possibility of falling debris, even if there were to just be some gusty winds with this rotation couplet, if you have a bike helmet laying around, wouldn't hurt to, bring that with you, put it on for the few minutes that you're spending your time in your safe spot this afternoon. And, that little extra preparation means the world into, keeping you and your loved ones safe as these warnings continue to pass overhead. So we'll switch back over to our Velocity product, and really we have lost a lot of the impressive looking structures with our Velocity product throughout Panola County. And once we get a little closer to 12:10 and 12:11 this afternoon, we're going to see this center of circulation make its way into Louisiana. So that's something that we're looking forward to happening, of course, because that would mean, at least for now, the severe weather threat in East Texas would be over, as there would be no active warnings to speak of, but certainly still the possibility of getting a warning over the next couple of hours, as we still have a tornado watch that's in effect until 4 p.m. So a little bit of a wider look as we continue to wait on some updates from the National Weather Service. We do have a tornado warning that's in effect, and that's going to move into DeSoto Parish by the time we get closer to 12:15 this afternoon. And for the rest of the afternoon, we're really going to be keeping an eye out, I think, on this particular cluster of showers and thunderstorms that are moving throughout deep East Texas, because we still have some untapped environment to work with in places such as San Augustine County, Sabine counties, Shelby County as well, and in areas that haven't really been worked through by any type of thunderstorms at all throughout the day today. So we keep weather aware for these next couple of hours as we continue to monitor these closely, especially this cluster that was located in Livingston County, now a little farther to the north and northeast into Angelina County. We have some lightning still being picked up by CBS 19 radar, some pockets of hail that we're seeing as well. But thankfully, Brett, it looks like, we've been able to avoid some confirmed tornadoes. Certainly, though, we've had some wall clouds that spotters have been keeping an eye out for. And, certainly we've got a threat that we'll need to manage, at least until we get closer to the watch expiring.
Yeah, at 12:15. And we'll talk also about the watch here in just a second. We'll also look at the Nacogdoches camera, because I think what we're seeing here is just a lot of rain coming through Nacogdoches County right now, lifting up to the north and east. It does look like the strongest portion of that cell is moving over into, I believe, Bossier Parish, maybe DeSoto Parish at this time. So let's quickly take a look at the Nacogdoches camera, and then we'll come back to radar, and I'll go over what we're seeing here. So it looks like even the rain's starting to let up just a little bit at Nacogdoches. It was a lot heavier just a little bit ago. All right, so back here on the big picture on the radar, again, Tyler, light rain, Jacksonville, light rain. We do have this steady stream of heavier showers and thunderstorms, and now this one moving here over southern Angelina County, that'll move up into Sabine and also San Augustine County, and probably back into Shelby County. So Shelby County, you're not done yet. We do have, look at this. So we've now paired away some of the counties here in the tornado watch until 4 p.m. We have just a little sliver now of Harrison County. Half of Panola County still in that tornado watch. You've got essentially just the very southeastern corner of Rusk County included in that, and the very, very southern tip of Cherokee County. So the rest of Cherokee County, including Jacksonville, including Alto, out of the watch at this time. Henderson no longer in the tornado watch. Tyler and Longview, there was a little portion of Gregg County in the watch. They have been taken out. It's been pared down. And now Crockett in Houston County paired away from the tornado watch. So this is new information that's just coming in right now. Nacogdoches still in the tornado watch. Lufkin still in the tornado watch. Center, Carthage, and Hemphill in that tornado watch until 4 p.m. So a couple of things we talk about before severe weather, but also let's talk about about even during severe weather. And Chandler touched on a couple of these, but the important one is to have 2 ways to get your warnings. 2 ways could be the CBS 19 app, and when we do have warnings issued, you can take that app with you into your shelter. And when you take that with you into your shelter, what you do is you just continue to watch the app, continue to watch the warnings scrolling across, and you can watch us as we track the storms through East Texas. So 2 ways to get warnings. One, CBS 19 app. Another one could be your weather radio. Another way that a lot of folks don't think about is having someone, a loved one, a family member, call you when there is a warning issued. So perhaps you just have your cell phone with you, you haven't downloaded an app or something like that, or you're just not into apps, but you have a loved one that is and is paying attention to the storms. They can call you, or you can call someone and let them know that there is a tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning in their area. All right, so also know where you're taking shelter. We talked about going to shelter. We repeat this ad nauseum, but it's important because we want folks to get in, get down, get sheltered. So when we say that, we want you into the most interior room of your house that has as few windows as possible, preferably 0. Then you're getting down as low as possible, and you are sheltering, and maybe you're taking some pillows and blankets with you. And then if you live in a manufactured or mobile home, the plan is to evacuate that before the storm arrives. And if you can't, again, sheltering in the innermost portion of that structure that you can is the best way to go about that. Chandler, it looks like you have some new information for us over in the Weather Center.
Yeah, I was just looking at our cluster of thunderstorms that we were keeping an eye out for throughout parts of deep East Texas. Remember, we were tracking this particular cell near Livingston County. It has now moved into southern Angelina County, to the west of Zavala, and to the south and southeast of Lufkin. And the rotation certainly broad on this particular area of rotation that we were keeping an eye out for a little earlier on. This is now near Manning. And notice that at least over the last couple of scans with signatures that we have had an increase in lightning near Zavala and Dolan. This is right along State Highway 63 and State Highway 147. So you folks in Angelina County, we don't have any warnings with this right now. It's just a particular cluster that we're keeping a very close eye out for because of the possibility of, if we were to see some tightening, as we have throughout earlier today, we could have a tornado warning eventually be issued for this thunderstorm. Getting a wider look at our velocity products, really, it looks like we're starting to see, Brett, I think I'm interpreting this right, but it looks like we're starting to see, if you look at the deeper shades of red overtaking the greens, our air masses are starting to catch up, and eventually maybe we can see some more counties dropped from the watch.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like maybe the prefrontal trough is catching up. Winds will switch more to the west, and that'll essentially shut off the severe threat, especially over parts of Panola and soon Shelby County. And so we just have to work that into the rest of Nacogdoches County, Sabine and San Augustine County. Maybe that, and that's probably what the Storm Prediction Center saw when they trimmed back that tornado watch by a large portion. I mean, they took off a large portion of what we were looking at earlier.
And if you look at the signature, it's just completely washed out. We don't have any type of rotation at all, and you can see these deeper shades of red indicating, the stronger winds moving through. And just coming into the National Weather Service chat, our friend Charlie, he says they will be letting the tornado warning in Panola County and DeSoto Parish expire in 4.5 minutes.
Okay, and so that makes sense. I mean, there's no sense in issuing or canceling the warning 4.5 minutes early. You might as well just ride it out. But you're probably getting some gusty winds as that storm starts to fall apart, and as the cooler air catches up and the drier air catches up with all this humid air out ahead of that north and east of Gary City, north of Paxton. So this is good news to see this, especially aside from maybe the strong 40, 50 mile an hour gusts that might be being produced by the storm, but it is starting to really sort of weaken. So let's take velocity and go back down to that storm that Chandler was talking about toward Zavala, and let's look at that one. It doesn't look from this vantage point, but again, I believe we're probably in between, sort of right in that sweet spot of where you're in between radar sites between Houston, Shreveport, Lake Charles, and Dallas-Fort Worth. You just can't really, this is just radar ducting here in the purple, meaning the radar beams are just getting bent down due to curvature, and you just can't really get a good eyeball on it. You got to have spotters on a storm like this, or know that the lightning is increasing, and that could be problematic.
Yeah, it looks like, as you mentioned, ducting, beam splitting, just things that are going to make it difficult for us to tell just by using our radar product if we have anything as far as a rotation that needs to be particularly watched out for. And oftentimes if you don't have a spotter, all we have is rotation, so that's why it's extra important that we have a spotter network across deep East Texas and really anywhere, because it can be difficult to see, especially once you get far away from these radar sites. And switching over to reflectivity, Brett, it looks to be a cluster of thunderstorms that maybe is trying to swirl at times within the core of the heaviest rain.
Yeah, and then at times it looks like it swirls back the other direction, so there may be some like winds gusting out ahead of it. It does have that sort of appearance in southern Angelina County where there's maybe a little bulge in that cell, so maybe there's a stronger downburst wind. I would call it a downburst, but just a stronger downdraft wind near Dolan and Zavala. So that's good if you want it curved like that in terms of keeping it from becoming tornadic. So if it can continue to just kind of push, even though I don't like the direction, the movement from the southwest to the northeast with the storm, because anytime a storm is moving like that over parts of East Texas or deep East Texas, as we've seen in the past, those are the types of storms that start to turn in a counterclockwise direction, and those are the storms that we often have tornado warnings. We don't have too many tornado warnings here where a storm is approaching from the northwest down to the southeast. That just doesn't happen a lot. Sometimes west to east, like we saw back in April when we had the several different tornadoes and then eventually producing the 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts in the Azalea district. That was sort of a west to east moving system. But most of our more, let's see, troublesome or problematic storms are the ones that are moving southwest to northeast here. So the fact that that storm's moving in that direction. But really, let me go over to the, as you were mentioning and we were talking about, I'm going to go over here to the big board, and what we'll look at here is I don't know, you can agree with me or disagree, Chandler, but it does look like, look at this, it looks like this whole line now is really catching up. It looks like it's just sort of becoming one solid line.
Yeah, I agree. And I think once we get closer to the line catching up to these clusters that ahead of the thunderstorms, that'll, in turn start to have our severe weather threat continue to decrease as well these next couple of hours.
Yeah, especially like the storms that are west of Lufkin catching up to that cell that we were just talking about that's moving towards San Augustine County right now. So if that can continue, that should maybe undercut that storm a little bit. But there is a lot of lightning with that cell. There's either a ton of heavy rain or some hail with that cell, and I think that one just needs to be watched. And it's moving quickly now. This one's moving into San Augustine County, probably moving 45, 50 miles an hour. Yeah,
and it looks like you had mentioned, too, over the last couple of scans, we've seen some increase in the lightning. So until we can see the drier, slightly cooler air mass catch up, certainly something that we'll need to watch in the meantime, at least for the next 30 to 45 minutes.
So we only have about 15 seconds to go on the tornado warning for Panola County.
And it will be allowed to expire once we get to 10 seconds from now.
Okay, and so the Weather Service in the chat is not saying about any other, are we talking about any other downstream wind or storms that they're looking at?
No, we haven't seen anything. It looks like Charlie is saying we are seeing an area of concern in southern Caddo Parish, that's into Louisiana. Otherwise, though, they have no other indications of our clusters of thunderstorms in deep East Texas for right now. Looks like the warning has been allowed to expire, and we're going to be all good.
All right, so with that, we are going to wrap up our tornado coverage here on CBS 19. We no longer have any tornado warnings in effect over East Texas. We're going to go to break and come back right after this.
Back until 12:15 p.m. CST at 11:30.